Okay, what we wanted to do was to have a brief check-in with you on all of the numbers that you have put together from housing projections, from a dwelling unit count, as well as a jobs potential count.
Everybody will pay.
All right, everybody sitting down? Okay. You want to go make sure?
Why would you want to do that? You like what you got. You spent your life on it.
So what we wanted to do was a bit of a reality check with the numbers and talk about what these numbers really are and aren't. And so there's no misunderstanding what work has been done. We haven't written a general plan yet. Okay, we've got a lot of work still ahead of us. This is a stepping stone for that effort. In terms of dwelling units, you can see the chart behind me shows, first of all, highlight for you that we've included the city of Chico as well as the city limits of Orville for dwelling unit projections. So we're looking at, remember when I showed you originally the 44,000 dwelling units are needed countywide for the year 2030? Mm-hmm. Okay, that was, so that we have an apples to apples comparison. We want to give you this, this information showing the city of Chico as well as the city of Orville. The Gridley Biggs numbers over here are pretty small, relatively speaking. And you see that the total is the 69,400 potential land available for dwelling units, okay, in these study areas. And so, and we projected through the BCAG process that, again, we need a total of 44,000 dwelling units. So this is a 1.5 or a little bit more capacity available versus projected actual. Okay, that makes sense. So, and philosophically, I think when we get into the policy discussion, I think it would be a good opportunity to have the discussion about what is the right ratio that there should be that is being planned for in the general plan project versus what the projected growth numbers are expected to be. Should it be 1.5 times? Should it be a bare, you know, we're projecting 44,000 are needed, so we should only plan for 44,000 available? That's probably a discussion we'll have as we refine this in the policy arena. What's good about this, I think, is that it doesn't show that, you know, we've only come up with 20,000 housing units. I think that would be problematic if that were the summary of the work that you had done to date, and we got here tonight, and we're projecting countywide 44,000, and you came up with 20,000, we'd kind of have a problem, okay? So I think what I'm saying is you've done a very good job so far, and we'll see, again, I don't think this means, for example, in Thermalito, you're going to see 11,600 new dwelling units by the year 2030. I don't think it means you're going to see in eastern Oroville 17,000 new dwelling units by the year 2030. It's just not real, right? I mean, you need to put on your reality filter hat as you look at numbers like this. What it means is that the land use availability, potentially that could happen. Realistically, we know that won't happen. Okay, but the land use mix that you've come up with so far, this is where future growth will happen. Okay? On the job side of things.
Before you move?
Yes.
Too
late, I already moved.
Oh,
yes.
Thanks.
I'm back.
City of Chico's general plan is calling for, they're looking at
20,000?
a number that's 20,000.
20,000, correct.
Which, you know, that's at that rate, City of Chico could beat out Eastern Oroville. Are there other things, for instance, in the Oroville general plan? Is that what's counted in the 3,500 there, or is there a similar increase coming out of Oroville's general plan effort?
It's in Oroville, most of their projected growth is in the county. In Chico, it looks to me like half of their projected growth is in the county, based on the 10,000, and if they need 20,000 units, 10,000 of that will come from the county, approximately.
Through annexation?
Yes.
Okay.
And over in Orville, that 3,500 actually, 3,500, this is in this area right here, in the existing city limits is available. They have a lot of available land. I mean, this is a discussion I have and we have with the City of Oroville folks, is there is a lot of available land inside the city limits. They're planning to annex areas outside even their sphere as part of their growth strategy, and that's their choice. They have their reasons, and it's part of their own strategy. You know, for two areas that we've talked about, Oro Bay and Rio de Oro. So that's just how this is shaking out so far. So we'll see how this goes.
Tim, quick question, if I may.
Yes.
We heard from Oroville about what their city plan was. When the planning director from Chico appeared, Tovey had some pointed questions as to whether or not his remarks had been vetted by the city council. Holly was here tonight and didn't really get a chance to speak to whether or not the items on the list were actually what the city of Chico was planning for. At what point will we have a better understanding of what it is that Chico wants to do and what the staff has been directed to do by council?
As you compare Chico and Oroville with their general plan processes, Oroville is much further along. You know, they have a draft general plan. Chico, as you know, is just really getting the ball rolling. They're a little bit into it, but not very far. So as they go through their meeting series and develop their own preferred alternative, that's when we really get the official word from the council, when they get to the preferred alternative. Until then, there's a lot of talk, there's a lot of ideas. We've heard a lot of different things thrown around. So we'll see how it shakes out there from the city. And we are committed at the county to work with the city on a strategy that makes sense from a planning perspective so that we do good planning.
Well, it would have helped us in terms of the Doe Mill property, and I think it would have helped us in terms of a conversation about Mr. Schwartz's property if we had known better what the city intentions were.
Right. And I don't think the city knows yet, but when the city does know, they will certainly let us know. Okay, let me jump over to the job picture. And again, you know, what this doesn't say, first of all, the numbers have changed over here on the totals. And this is a result of some discussions we've had with DC&E, with Bay Area Economics, our consultant. This number on the far right is the actual projection of jobs countywide that will be added by the year 2030, including the cities and the county, so that we're having apples to apples comparison again. We had a apples and oranges comparison before where we were just looking at unincorporated job growth and comparing it to total jobs, and so it wasn't quite the right data set. So what this and this is from your setting and trends report. This is table 3-3 in the setting and trends report information right here of this 34,825. That's the number of jobs. If you count how many jobs we have today countywide, including the cities, project out to the year 2030, that's how many jobs will be added countywide through all the projections in the year 2030. With the work that you've done, and this is based on some quick estimates of what we did, work that you did tonight to add, both on the housing side and the job side, the total number of available potential area where jobs could be created. And if you calculate that out into how many jobs would actually be created based on those number of acres, and again, this is, as you can tell, a very rough estimate. You know, we come up with about 68,000 jobs, actually, as I look at that. That's kind of a nice coincidence. When you look at the number of housing units at 69,000, you have kind of a jobs housing balance. Wow. You guys are awesome. That was all planned.
Sometimes it's better to be lucky than good.
So has this been refigured, because this spreadsheet we got at one of the previous meetings said 114,000 jobs?
Yes, that was refigured because primarily in the Oroville area was because of the mixed use designation that was used in Oroville, much higher numbers and higher assumptions of multi-level mixed use than we're comfortable with putting into, you know, our vision of how the plan would work.
Can we get an updated one of these spreadsheets?
Yes, we'll get, as soon as we finalize this with all the information from tonight that's been amended, we'll get this out to you.
Well, it was assuming that if you're doing multiple stories, that there would be jobs on every square foot of the multiple stories.
Right.
So it wasn't accounting for mixed use would be a bunch of that was residential.
Right.
You know,
Yeah, so we've
So they
adjusted
average
those,
too
those
high.
numbers down, and I think brought them more in line with reality. I think they're still high, frankly, in study areas 23 and 26. But again, it gives you a sense, and that's what this is about, giving you a sense of, are you in the ballpark with what you've come up with here in your preferred alternative? And it says you're kind of on the right track with what you've come up with numbers-wise from the perspective of jobs, housing balance. You're not out of line one way or the other. Now, maybe you're too high on both. You could argue that, and some may. And feel free to as we go forward in the process. But I think, again, these are the numbers that you've created so far and that we'll be taking forward to the Planning Commission as we have discussions with them. So any questions about the numbers? Yes, Mike.
Maybe just a little comment. I've had discussions with some of the OIDCO members, the Oroville Industrial Development Corporation, that we're trying to monitor some of this stuff. And we felt that the housing numbers for study area 23 were not going to happen because it didn't take into account the need for sewer to realize those densities. And the same thing with the jobs numbers. We just didn't think that we were that good that we were going to be able to do that much. So we felt like they might be as much as 30 to 50% inflated just by the reality factor of getting the utilities and the infrastructure in place. And so if we back those down, I think our whole numbers thing will stay sort of balanced, but it will get more in line with what the Bay Area economics projections were.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? Yes, John.
Well, with both of these, when we look at the stuff that drives the housing element that comes out of BCAG and HCD, when they lay out growth projections at about 2%, and they say, well, we're going to have to accommodate this much housing over these municipalities and these unincorporated areas, the standard they use coming from Sacramento, from the state in Sacramento, is put together a housing plan that doesn't present a barrier to the marketplace to deliver the housing. And the same thing happens on the jobs, and then make sure you get the jobs housing balance thing going. So I think that what will end up happening is we'll get this thing into kind of hand grenade range where, I don't know if that's a planning term, but we'll get this thing into kind of a rough shape that it will really end up coming down to specific proposals that are dealing with infrastructure. And while this may be a surprise to some folks, just creating zoning and general plan designations may present the opportunity for someone to go through all the brain damage of starting a business and moving it there. But there's not necessarily a causal relationship. We need to be able to accommodate it when it wants to come, but just the designation doesn't actually produce the jobs.
Right. Thank you.
This
is if you zone it, hopefully they will come. The general plan, and it's very exciting that when you talk about policies, then we get to talk about incentives to actually motivate and encourage people to do the kinds of things that you're planning for. And can you develop an incentive system to encourage someone to build affordable housing in the places that you want affordable housing, to put jobs where you want the jobs. And that's, this is just going to get more exciting as we go, so hang on. All right, any other comments? Because if not, we just have a couple more things to cover. So, final preferred.
Okay. Well, I think, too, I just want to make a point that our existing general plan has a lot of general plan designations for growth, for residential and commercial and industrial development that hasn't been developed since it was approved. So that's just kind of goes towards that point of there's a lot of extra land that gets zoned in these processes that don't necessarily get built out during the plan period. And our current general plan kind of is an example of that. So we're going to move on to the end of our agenda, which is to get a vote from the entire CAC on this package of preferred land use alternatives for these 31 study areas and transmitting that package to the Planning Commission for deliberations. They're going to be looking at this tomorrow and on May 30th. So the meeting tomorrow will be focused on trying to get the Planning Commission sort of up to speed on everything that's happened. We're not going to ask them to take any action tomorrow. They will be taking action on the 30th. So it'll be more informational, and the 30th will be more action-related. So with that, I think what we want to do is we've got a good overview of what it is we've done with the bar charts on population and housing and jobs. Shall we take a straw vote right now as to how many people want to forward this set of land use alternatives to the Planning
How could you
Commission?
not vote for that?
Are we ready?
Here's let me
This is just an overall vote on everything.
Here's when we get to the Planning Commission and the board, the question is asked to us: where's the final tally of, was this really the recommendation of the CAC? This package that's going forward, there's that. We were asked for that in an earlier workshop series. We promised that we would bring that back in the future workshop series as we brought things forward. So it's really asking you, you've seen the package that you've all assembled. Nobody agrees with everything that's in there, but do you feel like the package that's assembled represents the actions and votes that you've taken in the study areas, alternatives, that you're willing to say, yes, I believe this should move forward to the Planning Commission?
Yes.
So all in
Okay,
favor of
so
that, raise your
everybody
hand.
Raise your hand high.
All right. Beautiful.
Because everybody knows what would happen if we didn't.
Let's
do
make
it.
this official. Tim, was that unanimous?
Yes.
Does anybody dissent on that?
That was
Good.
That was
unanimous.
anonymous, yes.
Can I ask a generic question, please?
Yes.
We're planning for 2030, right? Or between now and 2030.
Yes.
And we're telling developers, this is what we think and don't think. Are there rules or guidelines or whatever about perhaps a developer would decide, well, I've got, your process isn't going to be over for a year and a half. I'm going to do what I want in the meantime. Or perhaps it's a developer, an area where we've said it's got to be all agricultural, and they suddenly start building next week industrial buildings. Where do we stand? Where do they stand? Where does everybody stand on this?
It's an interesting question.
Well, it's a reality question.
The way I would shape the question, tell me if this is right, is can someone come in with a general plan amendment today and a zone change in an area that is in line with the preferred alternative or not, and start the process of moving forward with what's planned already through this or not? And the answer is yes. People can submit applications and take their own risks anytime they want, even after the general plan is adopted. If it's an area that in the general plan is all agriculture, someone can still come in with an application and say, I want to build a city there. However, when we go through this process with the public involved like we're doing, with the community support that we're trying to build, the product that we end up with at the end is going to reflect the commitment of Butte County to its citizenry about the policies and locations for future growth and development, where it will go and where it won't go. And it's trying to get that commitment politically as well as from the community and the support to stand behind it and say, when someone comes in with a proposal that's inconsistent with the general plan, for the county to say no.
But my question is, what if this developer decides next week to start doing something before this plan has been legalized?
As Tim and Dan know, some have. Some developers
That's right.
didn't, hang on a sec, some developers did not respect this process. We need to admire the courage of those developers who did come forward and say, I want you all to consider this. But there was also an interim agreement signed in terms of the planning process. So Fish and Game, U.S. Wildlife Service, already has some proposals for development on their table, but the comments that will be made on those proposals are, hang on, folks, there's a planning process in place, and you guys better speak to this, but the reality is people always have a right to ask for rezoning.
I know that, but what I'm saying is, we're going through all this, we get home at midnight, and what if developers just totally ignore, say in the next year and a half, what we've done before, and I know it's their land and they can do anything they want to some respect. But are we, well, that's kind of my question. Are the powers that be going to say to these people when they go to apply for a permit to build this industrial park, no, you've got to wait? Or is it going to be a slap in our face and they just get to do anything they want?
I can tell you from a staff level, we tell people now we're halfway through a general plan. If you're coming in with a general plan amendment on any magnitude, you should wait until the new general plan's adopted. If they don't wait, then they end up having to do an environmental document anticipating a future general plan that is somewhat, it's not written yet, as well as analyzed under the existing general plan. So it's a very awkward time for someone to submit an application for any of the study areas like we're talking about.
Well,
And someone said, I think it was Scott, that the environmental is the last thing.
yeah.
Okay.
But Sue, as a practical matter, if somebody wanted to put an industrial park on a piece of land that was ag zone right now, that had ag designation in the general plan, and they go and they say, I want to amend the general plan and make that ag land industrial designation, and here's my application to do that. And if you had some lawyers hammer on these guys, after a long period, they would say, okay, the judge says you can process your application. Why don't you go and spend the next 18 months assembling a really kick-ass EIR? At which point they're exactly where they would be if they just waited it out. So the environmental review that they would have to do independently would actually have a higher burden of demonstrating that it was the right thing to do than they would have to do if they would just wait later. So it's about the same amount of time.
I'll pass your word. I'll pass your word along.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
Any other general comments before I close this out here? Okay. A couple things Dan mentioned. Tomorrow is our Planning Commission meeting. To take the work that you've completed tonight, we begin the next step in Workshop Series 4 tomorrow morning. Okay, so thank you for finishing the work tonight. We appreciate that. And tomorrow is essentially an orientation day for the Planning Commission. It's where we will educate them and discuss the alternatives evaluation report. We're going to take a lot of public comment tomorrow, we hope. We planned an hour and a half for public comment, so for people to come and do it all again, make their presentations to the Planning Commission. We're going to talk about how the Planning Commission wants to review the information that you've developed for them on May 30th, and so that they can take their action and make their recommendation onto the Board of Supervisors. So tomorrow, if you're looking to attend a meeting, if you can only attend one meeting, I would say come May 30th, if you'd like to attend that meeting at 9 a.m. Tomorrow is really information. No action will be taken by the Planning Commission, and so it's their first meeting to touch all the work that you've done. And any questions about tomorrow's meeting?
Yes. Is it appropriate for a CAC person to speak tomorrow?
Sure.
On their personal opinion?
You're absolutely, as individuals, can come speak for yourself.
As a citizen?
Yes. As you can speak as a member of the CAC. You can and say, I'm on the CAC, here's my perspective. You still have that freedom through the process. Like I said, this is America. You can speak up in public comments. I think it would be good if people on the CAC supported what the CAC has done and the hard work that you've put in, so that we don't have...
and certainly identify ourselves.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So May 30th is workshop number 2 with the Planning Commission. We're hopeful that the Planning Commission will get through the 31 study areas possibly. They may elect to just pull certain ones and study and have discussions about certain ones. We don't know yet. So we'll find that out tomorrow, what approach they want to take on the 30th.
And then it goes to the Board of Supervisors June 8th, is that correct?
No, July 29th to the board.
Oh, so the Planning Commission stuff will then go to the Board of Supervisors July 29th.
Right. It's
Thank you.
possible we may need a third Planning Commission meeting. We're trying not to, but we'll see how it goes.
Is there a rough date on the possible third one if it happens?
I think we were looking at June 20th, something like that. Whatever that Friday is around June 20th.
And then what about us?
Okay. What about you?
Yeah, we're going to have meeting withdrawals here.
Yeah.
Well, in anticipation of that, we have a meeting planned just for you, remember, on June 5th. The meeting location is not determined yet. We're having a little trouble finding the building, so if anybody has a suggestion. June 5th is to talk about the organization of the general plan. Remember the discussion about a water element and an ag element and separate elements? That's our opportunity to have a really great discussion about what Sonoma County, they have a water element. We're trying to get someone from Shasta County. And talk just really about optional elements, the way that counties have organized their general plans, those who've done comprehensive updates. David will have some good information that he'll be sharing. We'll have some panels, and then we want to pitch it to you to discuss and propose to try to facilitate out of you a organization of a draft outline for our general plan.
So
Has
that's
anybody
on June
corresponded with in Imperial County about getting a copy of their water element? They charge for it, is the only reason I asked.
Okay, I saw that email.
Yeah.
I know that Pete is working on that, so.
We'll get on that.
Sue, did you have something else?
You're going to have guest speakers on June 5th, that's when?
Yes.
Thank you.
And Georgie?
I had a question. When you were meeting with the Planning Commission and doing the review, for those of us who are not going to be there, and, I mean, how will we be informed if they are making drastic changes? I mean, is there a way for you to email us or read the newspaper? Or,
Yeah, Dan?
Absolutely. We'll keep you apprised of developments
Yeah.
in the Planning Commission arena as well as the Board of Supervisors. So
Yeah.
we'll keep you in line with what's going on. We'll send you information all along the way.
Okay.
And then we're looking to target starting workshop series number 5 in September. That's where we develop the policies. And we'll get through workshop series 5 and be through the discussion about is our process backwards or not. We'll be past that because we'll have completed policies and a draft general plan, preferred alternative. So it's a very exciting. The work you're doing is so appreciated by the county, I can tell you. I personally thank you for your hard work and dedication and commitment. The time you spend that you take out of your busy lives and schedules to come here is most appreciated.
Yeah, and also I'll tell you, committee members, after watching the board chastise Tim occasionally about this process, one should go to Tim's updates at every board meeting, at least one or two of us, just to tell the board what a good job he's doing.
Thanks, Bruce. And Bruce was there last meeting, and that was really appreciated. Thank you for the support. So any other comments, questions? Everybody know what's next? Do we have more cake? Oh, boy. Oh. That's right. We'll work on that. Maybe a workshop series 5 cake. All right. Any other comments, questions? Going once, going twice. Meeting adjourned.
What about the public?
Oh,
Public
sorry.
input.
Fake out. Thank you. We have public comment. You're right. Come on up. Come over to the microphone if you have any public comment.
I too would like to, I'm DC Jones, I too would like to thank everybody for all their hard work. But the public has a hard time keeping their mouth shut too, sitting back here. And I've talked to a couple people, and having the public to talk after you voted on a whole night sucks. We'd like to at least be able to talk to the public talk in the beginning, so we can get things out so these people would hear what we're thinking about. Because after the fact, it's all gone.
Thank you.
Thanks, DC. My name's Carol Perkins. I'm a Durham resident, and I want to state some things. It's probably pretty obvious to most of you, but looking over this, the study areas, 8 out of the 34 study areas directly affect the Durham area. That's 1/4 of your study areas impact my watershed. I'm just going to make some comments that I spent some time here today. I, again, would like to say I appreciate everybody's work. I put in about 5 hours today going over these 4 study areas, so I appreciate having the opportunity to speak. But again, as DC said, it's kind of painful to come in here after the vote has been made and have put my 2 cents worth in. I'm going to go through this. I've got a lot here. I'm going to try and make it quick. Basically, I just would like to say that Unit C of the Tuscan Formation has a resistant, low permeability layer that forms many of the buttes in this area. All 4 of, the Unit C outcrops in the area where all 4 of these study areas are. and it's most likely the cause of high runoff and surface channel flooding in the Durham area east of Oro-Chico Highway. I'm on the Durham Mutual Water Company. We are purely an irrigation company. Don't be fooled by the name. We don't supply water for your urban use. That's Durham Irrigation District. It's very confusing. But we do deal, every year we deal with flooding issues that becomes more and more of a problem. And it leads to, neighbors wanting to sue neighbors because they feel somebody else has the responsibility, where really it's just natural runoff that's been generated by the development in the area. Also, and because of the Tuscan Sea Formation there. It's important to note that Durham, like Chico, has a growing groundwater depression. This spring, 7 of the 8 monitoring wells in the Durham area sub-inventory unit were below the low level set for the county groundwater monitoring program. I am also the Durham-Dayton Water Advisory Committee member. This is the second year that groundwater levels have been low, putting the Durham-Dayton subunit into stage 2 alert, which means I'm now going to have to talk to my constituents and figure out what we need to do to mitigate possible damages. Durham-Dayton subunit covers a very large geologic and demographically diverse area. It's important to know that because 7 of my 8 wells are low, and it's there's no consistent pattern there. As I stated earlier, Butte Creek is not used as a municipal water supply in the Durham-Dayton Pence subunit. All of the study area reports fail to look at the effect of creating impervious surfaces and how that in turn affects runoff and flooding for communities downstream and downslope. CalWater indicates that the average water use per household in the Chico area is 300 gallons per day, plus an additional 1,300 gallons for outdoor use, primarily landscapes. According to the Local Government Commission, California Water Code Section 13550 and through 13556 states that using potable domestic water for non-potable uses, including cemeteries, golf courses, parks, industrial and residential irrigation, is an unreasonable use of potable water if recycled water is available. We need to make a plan in our general plan to begin looking at reuse of wastewater. If the infrastructure has to be developed for sewage and water supply, we might as well look at using recycled water as well. Again, none of the areas discussed look at stormwater runoff or discharge. How will that be handled? Where will retention ponds be used? Will stormwater be routed to creeks unfiltered? Please let it be known that all of our stormwater in the city of Chico goes right directly into creeks unfiltered. In study area 10, it's in the Pence subunit. They indicate that there's little farming in this area and the population is low, therefore water demands are low. It's important to note that regardless how low water demands are in this area for the groundwater, the monitoring well in the Pence subunit indicates a decline this year below the groundwater level set for this area. And again, like Chico, Durham has a growing groundwater depression. I'll skip that one. Well, I've got a few other comments here, and I'll save them for later. I think for the most part, one other thing I wanted to make comment on, there was some comment for Area 17, indicates that Durham Irrigation District might be able to serve the urban development throughout the remainder of this year, or out the remainder of the study area. It comments that DID has 3 wells. DID actually has 5 wells. In '94, one of those wells went dry, and it's been replaced, but it's just important to note that one of those wells did get destroyed. It's unknown right now what kind of impact Durham Irrigation District service area demand currently has on the groundwater. CalWater is unaware of it right now. All of this area is dependent on groundwater. With declining groundwater levels, many domestic users may find they're without access to water. I know of 2 people that had to lower their wells this year. These declining levels also have a significant effect on the cost of irrigation for agriculture. And Durham Mutual Water Company only services a very small portion of the Durham-Dayton area.
Quick question?
Yes.
Those are very valuable comments for each area in terms of water. And so as we move into deeper discussions about policy, I think it would be really great if the comments just made were added up to the comments that we're going to be working with when we get to the water element.
It's great.
Okay,
Thank you.
I will forward those to you via email.
Please, that'd be
Okay,
great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for letting me speak.
Thank you. Other public comment? Albeit late in the evening process. Go ahead. Can you come up to a microphone?
Nora Burnham from Butte Valley. You said that there would be about an hour and a half tomorrow for
Yes.
public comment?
Yes.
What about the following meeting, the 30th?
Less time.
Less.
Yes.
So you're saying the more important meeting for the public to go to is the second one, but actually,
No. I'm saying the more important meeting for the CAC to go to is the second one. The public should come tomorrow and make their public comments so that we can preserve the second meeting for a lot of discussion by the Planning Commission on each of the study areas.
and for those of us who work during the day,
Can't help you with that one.
and the meeting starts...
You can give us written comments.
Okay.
Written comments. We could
Are
still
they
forward
going
on.
to get all the written comments that have been put in the
Yes.
box throughout
Yes.
this? They've been getting...
By
they-
study area, they're going to get comments. That's
So
what's
they're going
in
to
it.
get all of... They've gotten it all, or they're going to get it
Not yet.
tomorrow?
They will get that.
They'll get it for the May 30th meeting. We're still assembling all of it by study area.
So if I wanted to get comments by tomorrow at 9, I would have to be emailing them tonight and hope, and they wouldn't even have time to... I mean, I've put in plenty of comments on the papers here.
Right.
And I hope they're being read.
Yeah, I think that it's the same getting them to us for tomorrow's meeting or the meeting for the 30th. It's still
Okay.
going to be part of their
Because the
decision-making process. Right.
Right, as long as it's in advance of the 30th.
Yes,
because
we can-
the
if you get
voting
it to
will be
us-
taking place.
If you get it to us 2 weeks in advance of the 30th meeting, we can include it in the packet that goes to the Planning Commission.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome. Any other public comment? Public comment? Going once? Going twice? Okay, adjourned. Thank you all very much.